Hello, I'm Jack, and today we'll talk about the concept of otherness in society and how it can be inspected and explained in literature. Otherness is an astounding concept that can be seen in virtually every social context, especially in the modern age of the internet and social media. There are a few key ingredients needed to classify a certain group as different, and we will analyze these ingredients in action with Bartleby the Scrivener by Herman Melville and Minorinho by Clarence Lispector. But first of all, how do we define otherness? A definition of otherness is needed before launching into its implications in literature and the modern world. In a broad sense, the other is a person or group whom the group in power excludes for a certain reason. As put by Dr. Zuleika Zevallos, social identity means little without the other. When political or social inequity is attached to these identities, the groups involved do not have equal powers to define both self and the other. With that in mind, we can now turn to Clarice Lispector's Minorinho, which was shaped by a few key concepts that must be considered before analyzing the work itself. Minorinho was written in the 1960s in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. In this era of Rio's history, the country lost its status as the federal capital and soon lacked the generous federal funds that made it a center of services and intense political and cultural life. Simultaneously, criminals known as bicheiros rose as Robin Hood figures among the poor living in the slums of Rio. Minorinho was one of the most famous of these unique criminals until he was gunned down by police. Minorinho himself was a polarizing figure. Some were excited by the possible peace that the criminal's death would have brought to Rio de Janeiro, while others were outraged at the death of their Robin Hood. This polarization indicates that otherness might be playing a role, and the text itself confirms our suspicions. Clarice Lispector uses metaphors to critique the method in which society classifies Minorinho as an other. Specifically, Lispector claims that all of humanity is bonded by a grain of life that, if trampled, transforms into something threatening. This claim is cast in doubt considering the uniquely violent life that Minorinho led. However, the truth is that thing which in Minorinho became a knife, it is the same thing in me that makes me offer another man water, not because I have water, but because I, too, know what thirst is. In essence, Minorinho is not possessed by some inherent bloodlust, but is a product of the vicious crime cycle in Rio. We empathize with him because, contrary to the political and economical divisions in 1960s Rio, we are all bonded by the grain of life that makes us human. Political and economic divisions were also noticeably present in the historical setting of Bartleby the Scrivener. Herman Melville, author of the piece, grew up in early 19th century New York, which is the same setting present in Bartleby the Scrivener. During this time period, government policies virtually eliminated all forms of corporate liability for conditions detrimental to their workforce. Wall Street was especially affected by this phenomenon, with the result being a callously self-interested, mercantile society in which any deviance from its norms, if at all insisted upon, led to punishment by imprisonment and even death. Bartleby's lonely death in a jail yard becomes a bit more understandable considering the cutthroat, lopsided society that surrounds him. Like Minorinho, Bartleby's character flaws make him an easy target for exclusion by the group in power, who is undoubtedly represented by the lawyer. The lawyer's feelings of melancholy and sincerest pity turn into fear, that pity into repulsion. Like Lispector, the lawyer feels empathy towards Bartleby due to the grain of life that bonds them together. However, he ultimately decides to cease association with Bartleby, therefore continuing the cycle of otherness that keeps power imbalances in place. The lawyer comments that there is an inherent selfishness in the human heart. Perhaps there is an element of truth to this statement. After all, social identities are attractive because they appeal to our somewhat selfish need to be validated by others. Therefore, how much blame can we place on the lawyer? Is there truly a point in which an individual is so different than us that we can't help but to ostracize them? These questions are as important to the modern day as they were in the two time periods I have discussed. The solution involves dismantling social systems that perpetuate inequality and feed a vicious cycle of otherness. In Minorinho, the economic downfall of Rio and the subsequent divide between the poor and the government can be blamed. In Bartleby the Scrivener, the corporate rat race within Wall Street is the culprit. We must use this hindsight and combine it with awareness of our own social identities if we want to know the other in our own lives. We live in an age of fake news, political division, and mass uncertainty and mistrust. Amidst this chaos, disabling the creation of the other should not just be a goal, but a necessity. Thanks for watching.